What is up YouTube, it's your boy SmackNPie here. Welcome to Dark Deception Chapter 5 Teaser 2 Full Analysis Frame by Frame. We're going to divide this video into two parts. It's still going to be one video, don't worry. But in this first part, we're going to talk about the monologue, the dialogue that Malik gave us and try to understand what's going on. And then in the second part of this video, we're going to try to go and look at visual stuff and see how that makes any sense, if at all. Also, I would like to apologize, Silent Hill F Early Access is out, so you know I'm busy there, but still I wanted to make this video anyway because I gave y'all my word yesterday, so here we are. But know this, after uploading this video, I'm going back straight in the world of Silent Hill F. Now, without wasting any more time, let us jump into it. So, Malik says a big dialogue which I've written here, and let's read what he says here. He says, "Ah, Beers, such a treacherous little soul. Have you not yet abandoned hope? Do you still dare defy shadows of eternity, throwing your pitiful mortal into fire time after time, watching you scurry around like a frightened rat to survive?" Is that with us, Doug Hauser? Such foolish dreams of salvations. Did I say salvations? This is an issue of mine. The nightmare realms hunger for your screams, and eternal torment awaits you both. And watch as it devours your essence until nothing left except echoes of your despair. So fight if you must, Doug Hauser. He didn't say Doug Hauser, I added that in. Run and hide if you can, Doug Hauser and Beers. Again, I added that in, he didn't say that. But no else, that was also me. Your fates are already sealed. He's talking to us both, Beers and Doug Hauser. Your mortal is on his last legs, and there are no more tricks up your sleeve. I would doubt that. I would doubt that, Doug Malik. All paths lead to me, and that which you fear the most. And this is an interesting one, the eye. This time, there will be no escape, ladies and gentlemen. So let's unpack what we got here, ladies and gentlemen. So, he's reminiscing about the past. At the end of the day, I've said this time and time again, that this is Beers' story. But today I'm going to change this perspective even further. This is one of Malik's stories. This is not just Beers' story. It's actually Malik's story. A story about this devil making a deal with the mortal, and then that mortal becoming cute, becoming sly, and trying to turn back on her words against this devil. And then shielding herself in this pocket dimension that is Beers' ballroom. And then using real human mortals who are sinners, who are looking for redemption, or anything of that nature. Not just sinners who are looking for redemption, but sinners who are looking for like lust, greed, and whatnot, or salvation in general. You can put anything in there, right? And using them to get her ring pieces back so that she can figure out a way to overpower devil just enough so that she can escape out of the grasp of this devil. Now, will she survive? Help her in any way, shape, or form? We're just gonna have to wait and see in Chapter 5. But, so here, ladies and gentlemen, we got our first official look at Malik's office. Now, we know that it's not exactly gonna be like this in Chapter 5, but at the very least, to a certain extent, it's gonna be something similar and akin to it. Now, we saw this teaser right here a long time ago. If we compare it with Malik's office, it kind of sort of looks similar. So one would have to assume if this is gonna be part of a rather cutscene that we're gonna get in Chapter 5, or is it something that's actually gonna be explorable comes Fear Fortress, like once we complete all the portals and once we go through the final main door, the eye door, which holds some extreme significance at the end of this teaser. One would have to wonder if this is a whole explorable, playable section of Chapter 5. I doubt it. I really doubt it. I think it's more of a cutscene-ish kind of thing, but at the same time, hopes are high that Malik's office is going to be explorable to a certain extent. But either way, Malik is here reminiscing about what has been going on. And we know that there's a lot of depth in Malik in Chapter 5, and this tells us that. Look at him. We're actually going to get to see some of that insight into how some of these deals work, right? The significance of this specific scene is Beers, right? One of the ring pieces that he has, which directly transitions to Beers holding that ring piece. Now, there's another theory that we can take, is that this could be a flashback, right? This could be a flashback to back in the day when Malik and Beers were originally doing a deal. I would also go to a certain extreme length. It's one of my weaker theories of all time, but it is one of the theories of all time, that could there be something And I don't mean any romantic-ish thing. I don't even mean anything platonic. Could there be, right? We already know it's like frenemies, right? He loves seeing her trying to fight back. There could be something when it comes to Pierce and Malik's relationship. I do personally believe that if Malik really wanted, he could have killed or had her soul a long time ago. But something must have changed during their exchanges or conversations or whatever, that their relationship took a different turn. To which now they do have this back and forth. They do fight. I say fight, quote unquote, if you look at chapter 4 cutscene fight. So I would not be shocked or surprised if there's something deeper going on when it comes to their relationship. Well, let's move on because we've taken too much of time. Then, ladies and gentlemen, the creator of Dark Discipline, Vincent Livings, actually said on Twitter that a lot of people didn't catch that this is kind of sort of our first look at holiday horror. Now, I said this in my reaction video as well, that it is kind of obvious for those who have seen or at least read the book to a certain extent. Even if you haven't, even if you bright these images, you can tell this is related to mannequins, right? Because of the mannequins in this section. The water, it does throw us off, but it is confirmed that this is a tunnel that leads to holiday horror. Let me repeat myself, ladies and gentlemen. It's confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a section tunnel that leads us to holiday horror. Now, I want to go into a little bit details related to the book because that is something I've mentioned both on my Twitter as well as on my reaction video. Now, in the book, in the second story specifically, because the first one deals with murder monkeys, it's not a major spoiler, but it is one of the spoilers. So if you want to remove or avoid spoilers, here's the timestamp on your screen, or just skip past until you don't see the spoilers tag on your screen. Now, 3, 2, 1. In the book, our second protagonist, at the end, like one of the later acts of the story, he ends up in this nightmare, right? He made the deal with the devil, Malik. Nothing happens until after the deal, right? We don't go directly into the nightmare realms, into these levels, before making the deal. It only happens after the deal, which is why the situation is so hopeless and full of despair, is because there's really nothing you can do at that point, because you're the one who made the deal. It was your choice, ladies and gentlemen, not your, ladies and gentlemen, the characters who made the deal with the devil. Anyways, in that second story, later part, we end up in this mall, right? It gets crazier. It started off normal, but it gets crazier. There are furniture, office furnitures stacked on top of each other, clothes. And all of a sudden we get blood, flesh, mannequins, and then comes this giant mannequin centipede. It's huge monster that is roaming around this, I would even say, zone 2 of holiday horror. This zone is like a completely upside down version, literally, of a mall, because the structure just makes no sense, right? It goes so high in the sky, like even if you look at it, there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling. If you look up atop, the structure of these furnitures and flesh and mannequins, it just goes so high. As far as I can see above, it goes so high. And then there's this monster, the human giant centipede, roaming around. And that is exactly what's going on here. Now, we were thrown off because of the water. And we were also thrown off because there's a monster inside the water. Could there be, ladies and gentlemen, that centipede that was hyped up in the book could just become one of a monster in holiday horror? I back this theory. I think it's a plausible theory. That centipede is actually an underwater monster, and this whole section, this tunnel, is like an introduction, but not really. You remember Barely Buried introduction? The one that had 19 to 20 shards, like the really first zone. There had few soul shards there. There were these trigotaries running around. I think something similar is going to happen in holiday horror. There's going to be introduction zone with soul shards, maybe, but this time instead of soul shards, we're trying to find our way into the holiday horrors like mall, right? And Blue Ball is helping us in this scenario, which is awesome. I think she's going to be a companion throughout chapter 5. She's going to be a really important key factor, which is going to come to in just a second. And they didn't show us any powers on the tablet, but they give us a little layout. So I think that's what's going to happen here. And I think either this is going to be where the new powers comes into play, where we use those powers to get away or do something to the mannequin, the centipede, this monster. We're just going to call it a centipede at this point, who is underwater. And I say underwater, it could be like, it could come out of any section, right? because you look around, you see mannequins over mannequins on top of mannequins, right? He could come out at any time. So that's, I think, what is going on with this specific section, and Tammy Hauser, aka Blue Ball, is guiding us, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, up next is probably one of crazy shots of this teaser, and that is Lucky the Rabbit. Now, Lucky the Rabbit, one of the 4 generals, really disappointed us in Chapter 4, but things are changing up for the better, and you're already seeing that in this teaser. If you look at this teaser, his eyes are glowing red. He's angry, but he's still smirking. He's psycho, right? He's chaotic in Chapter 5 version of things. Even we're going to see a little glimpses of that in Enhanced Plus as well. But he's holding his other fellow members of JoJo Gang. What happened? What kind of fire are we talking about? Could this be part of Chapter 5? It is Chapter 5 teaser. Possible, ladies and gentlemen. Possible. Now, couple theories. Again, like I said, this isn't exactly how things are going to happen. There are 2 ways to look at it. Number 1, we could say the newly Enhanced Plus cutscenes that are added in Mascot Mayhem could be about the destruction of the entire Mascot Mayhem. The Joyland, right? The amusement park or whatever. This could be that. This could be his trigger. That's number 1. Number 2, we know the JoJo Gang is going to be back for round 2. And we know that they're not going to be back in Holiday Horror. They're not going to be back in Prison Panic. It's most likely Fear Fortress because that's where most of the characters are returning. And one of the other reasons I'm saying it's Fear Fortress is where Lucky the Rabbit is going to return is because we know that only 3 levels were going to get their first glimpses. Holiday Horror, Prison Panic, and Fear Fortress, not Wicked Ways. So this tells us, ladies and gentlemen, that this is Fear Fortress, and I'm still on that theory, bro. I still believe that mini levels or mini bosses are still on the cards in Fear Fortress. I still believe that. I think it's a sick way to end any game of this nature, where you have multiple fast-paced mini bosses, mini levels, where whatever you've learned so far, you combine them into fast-paced mini-bosses that eventually hurts the final boss. You still have to face the final boss, which we're going to come to in just a second, but I think it's on. I think it's on. But if you have a better theory than this, let me know down in the comments below. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the second craziest part of this teaser, and that is Puppet King mewing on all of your butts, thinking he's a thinker. We also got our first good look at his model, because this first teaser was actually a pretty zoomed in teaser. Then we got in Fortnite Dark Deception a zoomed out teaser and looked so skinny and thin. Now here it looks it looks normal now. It's in action, it looks normal now. So he's up on his throne, and this gives us a better look at what was going on in the beginning of this teaser, right? The tunnel that was leading us towards this. Now, I'm 50-50 on the bosses that are like, okay, how should I put this? The boss fights that happen in very giant open areas, Elden Ring-like bosses, right? Even some Evil Within the horror game boss fights. I am 50-50 because sometimes I love them. I love them because they just give you this massive aura. It just gives a massive aura to the boss, but it also gives you 10x aura if you beat them, because you're this tiny little character facing this giant massive boss, right? Head on, head first. I think it would make for a really cool boss sequence for Puppet King here in this section, but there are multiple things that are going on. At first, a lot of corpses stacked on top of each other. We talked about this from the books, right? And from the teaser earlier, right? But then also, he's floating. Now, we talked about this in one of the Q&A recap videos, and we also showcased the fan game, which got that on point regarding Puppet King floating. There's a whole fan game that actually shows us the Puppet King floating boss fight in 2 separate occasions. On 2 separate occasions, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to the Realm of Multiverse. That team is so lit. Hit-Top and Co. Shout out to them, by the way. But yeah. And the red stalkers, aka red mannequins. We know there are white mannequins, but white mannequins are not exactly like enemies like red stalkers. They're more akin to, let's say, traps or hazards, if you will. And as you can see, he's controlling them, he's puppeteering them. I would love it if in Zone 2, when we are moving around, we can get a little glimpse of Puppet King from far away, puppeteering these puppets as they're getting close to us. Wouldn't you love that? Ability has also been revealed, and now we're seeing it in action, kinda, sorta. But let's move on because we're taking too much time. Up next is my favorite part of the video, ladies and gentlemen, is where I make the cameo, I make the cut. I will annoy the heck out of all of y'all I keep saying I'm in this game, ladies and gentlemen. I am in this game. These TV ads, I'm gonna roast them so hard. Ladies and gentlemen, they are not intimidating anyone. They are not... Nobody is getting scared. Nobody's getting scared by the... Like, imagine if you get a jump scare by one of these TV heads. You're like, all I need to do is turn off the monitor. All I need to turn off your television. What you gonna do? What are they even gonna do? Like, something gonna pop off from their monitor? Like, what is even that? Like, I sit here and I laugh so hard. Like, what are they even gonna do, ladies and gentlemen? Nothing. Sit down and play some cartoons on your face, which is monitor TV. But yeah, this is K-pop Demon Hunters. We got our first official look at full-blown Dark Star. Full-blown, like, she's on stage. We know for a fact that we're gonna get a performance from her in Chapter 5. But we also got these kind of sort of her security guards, who also are wearing uniforms that are similar and akin to a prisoner, but not really, right? So they're her prisoners, but they're guarding her, right? Safeguarding her and her level. Now we know that the equipment, this teaser right here, was actually the equipment that was being transferred from one place to another. This is a prison after all, however it's a different kind of prison. A prison that prefers entertainment. Slicing and dicing, ladies and gentlemen, over anything else. And there are multiple things going on. If you see the blue light and the red light, or I should say pink or purple light, right? I think this could be a hint, ladies and gentlemen. Also, the TV heads, they also got a weapon, right? Something similar to what Darkstar has. We talked about Darkstar weapon completely in a separate video about her chainsaw and her weapon being lethal, having multiple uses of that, not just it being a weapon or a microphone, right? It has multiple uses. We talked about in detail. You can check that video out. But also, I think here, multiple things going on. And I think although these TV heads are going to be one of the monsters that we're going to have to face in Prison Panic, I don't think they're the only ones. And I think when they talk about prisoners being one of the monsters, I think they were talking about these TV heads. And I think the prisoners who become devout fans, mad fans of Darkstar, I think they are turned into these TV heads. Again, I think it's a metaphoric tone because of her being in this industry, her being a singer, watching her on television, adoring her. I think that's because that's what she desires in some sort of ways, right? We haven't learned much about her at the moment. I think this kind of makes sense in that regard. I always have a question to all of the people out there who wear heels, right? Because I've even seen some men wear heels. Why? Artistic choice, it's another thing completely. Why on earth? It looks so uncomfortable. It looks so uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen. Why would you want to wear that? Why would you want to wear that? Please give me an explanation down in the comments below. If you're still watching and you know someone, or if you yourself wear heels, why do you wear heels? They look so uncomfortable. I got the same question I gotta ask to Darkstar. Darkstar, why do you wear heels? They look so uncomfortable. And yeah, one final thing is that her other minions, the TV heads, they also have second phase, the zombie ones. Again, this was pretty much explained and we talked about it in this detail in the last video when we talked about Darkstar. But yeah, we love to see visual confirmation of that. So one thing is for sure confirmed, this is not your typical prison. This is going to be a different one of nature, one that prefers entertainment, artistic choices over rehabilitation, if you will. And the final one, ladies and gentlemen, is we see all the monsters charging. And again, this isn't exactly how it's going to happen in Chapter 5, but it is something that's going to be similar. This is Fear Fortress, ladies and gentlemen, and Fear Fortress is where all the monsters are coming in. Now, I've talked about mini bosses and mini levels that is eventually going to lead us to the final boss of Malik and the Eye, which is coming up right now. It is here, ladies and gentlemen. There is also another boss fight that was in the game Control, one of my favorite games of all time. There was also an Eye in there as well. You might be seeing the footage on your screen as we speak. So I expect something similar that you're seeing visually here in Chapter 5 as well. Now, I still believe this Eye is Malik's eye and it is his stuff, but I would not be surprised if it is connected directly to Demon God. Or if it's something that leads us to Demon God. Or if that is Demon God's eye. Or if that is something that holds Demon God in place, right? Multiple theories that you can go around. Like, I believe this is Malik's stuff. But at the same time, I also believe that it is directly connected to Demon God because Malik is directly connected to Demon God. Getting to this point as immortal is huge. And I genuinely believe we're gonna get this dialogue from Malik that you're probably one of the few or maybe the only mortal to get this far. In my humble personal opinion, I think that's what's going to happen in this level. And we're actually going to defeat Malik. And I think this right here, we know that Fear Fortress is where major choices happen. We know one of the main endings. The endings kind of sort of start here, right? In this level. And I think it starts at this exact spot of the eye. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. All the monsters that are returning, every single one of them that we faced so far, even including the 4 generals, they will all return in Fear Fortress. One would have to wonder, if Fear Fortress is going to be this crazy, what about Wicked Ways? Wicked Ways is mostly akin to S ranks, but it is also kind of sort of Beerus' level, right? It is something related to Beerus and her deal with Malik and her deal and her side of things, right? But I don't want to focus on Wicked Ways in this video, only Fear Fortress, and that is Malik's level. You defeat this level, you defeat the Eye, then the real thing's gonna begin, and that is your deal with Beerus and how things gonna go. Make no mistake, Malik Archive, the book 2 is coming, and we're most likely gonna learn something important in that book related to Beerus and Malik. Definitely gonna learn something important related to Wicked Ways in that book. So keep your mind open related to these things. Because in games like these, in lore like these, your eyes can 100% deceive you. Just because you see something's happening doesn't exactly mean that's the case. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Wow, this video is too long. I don't want to edit that much, so you're gonna see minimal editing. If you made it this far, wow, you are a true one. Let me know. If you're still watching this, go down to the comments and say Silent Hill F. That's it. That's all you have to say. I'll know you've watched it till the end. Susu for more 100k. Agatha video is coming soon. More videos are coming soon. We're literally a day away from Tokyo Game Show, so the demo is coming soon. Wow, we are eating good as Dark Deception fans. Susu 100k. I'll see you next one.